Okay, good morning everyone. Today's professional development is going to be all about the Fountas and Pinnell Level Literacy Intervention Program. This is a new program that we have kind of guinea pigged, and we have found some real great success with it. So it's something that we're going to start implementing more and more as an intervention with our students here at Keys Elementary. So one of the first things that I want to go over is why. Here at our school, we are implementing a lot of new things, and so I know as teachers it's a lot. You're getting new vocabulary trainings to do, new ways to teach math, and so I'm sure you're thinking, how is this program different? Why are we using it here at our campus, and how is it truly going to benefit us? So I really want to go over the why are we using this level literacy intervention. So the first thing is that at the beginning of every year, we come up with a campus improvement plan. So within that plan, our biggest thing is literacy. We have so many English language learner students, and our students just aren't where they need to be when it comes to literacy. So all through our campus, literacy is our main focus. We're working on literacy not only in English language arts and reading, we're working on literacy in science, even in PE, music, our specials. We really want to focus on our students being able to find that literacy, being able to write the things that they find in their head, and being able to comprehend all of the reading, and being able to make those real life connections to make it mean something to them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that this program has research-based practice. I would never want to start a program in our campus that doesn't have research to back it up. So with that being said, we're going to talk about that research in just a minute, but it really relates to our students and what we're trying to achieve here at Keys. The third thing is that it has engaging leveled books. It's really fast-paced systematically, and it has those designed lessons. This is not going to add a whole lot of work to your day, and I'm going to go over what those lessons look like. We're going to see every little bit and piece of this program for y'all, to make sure that it makes sense and that it's something that we can do with our students here in our classroom. So let's take a look at that research-based practice. So doing research, you can go on their website and they have a lot of case studies. There's even like a 45-minute research-based video that you can watch, but it deals with using this system in the secondary level. Obviously we're elementary, so it doesn't pertain to us, but I chose one that really hits home with what we're trying to do. So with this research, this study that they did, after using the level literacy intervention kit, 61.4% of the special education students demonstrated an instructional reading level at least 3 levels higher than where they started. Okay, so that's like going from a level A to a level D. That's beginning of kindergarten to end of kindergarten, okay? And this was done over 10 months, so that's a school year, but that just goes to show that our special education students, they can grow an entire grade level in a year. Okay, that's what we saw. Now, the really awesome thing is that 10% of those same special ed students that they did this case study on, they raised their reading levels 7 or more levels. This is exactly what we need to be bringing to our students. Just think, our students who are significantly behind, I mean, this can get them closer and closer to being at grade level, and that's what we want. So Another thing is that these results suggest that the level literacy intervention kit is an effective short-term intervention for struggling readers who have an IEP for reading or other categories. So this can be used with your students who have an IEP. There's a lot of components to it that you can use for data collection, for everything that needs to be done with these special ed students. So I chose this one because I know a lot of you are special education teachers. And so if these students can do it, I know you guys are working so hard with them, and I think we're gonna see some really, really great results. Okay, so I've kind of gone over the why, but now I want to tell you, what is it? What is this program, and what are you going to be doing for your students? So, the Fountas and Pinnell Level Literacy Intervention System, you'll hear it called the LLI Kit, much shorter, easier to say. It's an intensive, small group, supplementary literacy intervention for students who find reading and writing difficult. Honestly, if we take a look at our campus as a whole, this is almost all of our students, okay? They're coming into us not knowing English, and by second grade, all we're teaching them, everything is English. So these students are not only learning how to read in their native language, but then so quickly we're switching it to their second language, okay? So our students find reading and writing difficult. That's just how it is. That's the demographics of our campus. The goal of this kit is to lift the literacy achievement of students who are not achieving grade level expectations in reading. The LLI systems are designed to advance the literacy learning of students who are not meeting grade level expectations. So any student who is behind, this may be first graders who are still entering as a kindergarten reading level. We need to get them to where they need to be so they can be successful every grade level to come. It deepens and expands comprehension with close reading. There's comprehension pieces throughout this system that you will use. It gives you examples. I'm going to go over one of the guides, and it gives you questions to ask throughout these lessons. To elevate the expertise of teachers. The greatest thing about this is everything is planned for you, and so you don't have that time-consuming aspect of, okay, what do I need to get ready for this student? We're going to do this book, so what questions am I going to ask? What activity am I going to do with it? Everything is included, and so you just need to have it ready. Obviously, you're going to look at it beforehand so you know what to do, because there are some, posters or books that you're going to need to have ready for them, but they do all the hard work for you. Increase reading volume by engaging students in large amounts of successful daily reading. This is a program that is designed to be a lesson every single day. Within the lessons, you have your main news story that you're learning, but you're also incorporating books from the past that they've already read. So not only are you practicing and giving them the confidence to keep reading, because these are books that they already know, but it's going to help them make those connections when they start this new book. Increase student engagement with books that build knowledge. Like I said, they're going to be able to start making connections, and these are books that they can really connect to with their own lives. Intervene with small groups of struggling readers to maximize growth. Like I said, this is an intervention. This is not going to be something that you're using with your whole classroom. This may be something, if you are a special education teacher, you are pulling students out and working with them in a small group. This may be something where academic specialists are pulling students out and really giving them that intervention that they need, that individualized, designed instruction. It also meets the needs of struggling readers. Like we saw with that study that they did, I mean, you're seeing special education students in 10 months grow 7 reading levels. That's incredible. And it also monitors student progress. It's going to give you all of your data collection sheets. It's going to have everything included for you and help you keep everything in one place. Before I go to the next slide, I really want you to think about your students. Who are you working with? I see that a lot of you are special education teachers, so who are your students that you would be implementing this with? Who are you pulling out to your classroom? Who are you doing that small group individualized instruction with that will really truly benefit from this? Okay, I see that you have 3 students that you're working with. Since your students are all at different levels, it may not be best practice to have them in a group setting because you really want them to be at similar reading levels, but we can talk about your individual case following this professional development. Okay, since I just had you thinking about who is this for? Who are we using this with? Are we going to be using this with our GT students? No. This is an intervention program. So I want you to think about, I know this campus, we do a lot of RTI. This is not your level 1 students. This is not your students who are on level. This is your students who are level 2, level 3. When looking at our campus needs, this is going to be your level 3 students. These are your students who are so far behind that we really need to push to get them to where their peers are and where they're supposed to be on grade level. So when we look at who is this for, it's designed to be used with small groups of students who need intensive support. That's the key word here, intensive. These are your students who need you in front of them, getting them focused and doing that one-on-one work or small group. They need that intensive support to achieve grade level competencies in grades K through 12. I think that's the really great thing, is that this is not just an elementary based practice. This is something that can be used all the way up till high school. It provides strong support for students who are acquiring English as an additional language. This is key. When you look at our demographics as a campus, majority of our students are English language learners, okay? So learning this vocabulary, everything that they're doing, they're learning it at a different level than our students who come to us already knowing English. They're having to go through everything, learning it in Spanish first, and then transferring it to English, okay? So this is a great program for those students to help make reading and learning in English an easier thing to do. So this is for those English language learners who are receiving classroom reading instruction in English. If your student is still learning in Spanish, then this is not the kit for them. But I know in first grade we have a lot of students who are starting to move from Spanish to English, and so this is a really great thing to work with them on. And the third thing, you may also include students who are identified as having special needs if the content of LLI meets the educational program specifications for the student. So when we're looking at this, we have, obviously when we're talking about special education students, you have to ensure that you're following IEP as it's a legal document, but when you're doing this, I know that a lot of our students, we can make this work with their IEP, especially if they have, maybe a goal, a reading goal to grow, to a level C in reading. That's their goal. If their main reading goal is to grow in their DRA level or their Fountas and Pinnell level, then this is something that you can really use to work with those students. So obviously we have to make sure it relates to their IEP and it's suitable for the student, but this is definitely something that we are going to be using with special ed students. Okay, so we are going to take a closer look of what is inside this box. First, I'm going to talk about all the different things. You're going to have 130 original leveled books, and with that, you're going to have 4 copies of each. So those copies, you're going to be able to be working with a group up to 4 students. On our campus, we are very lucky to have the staff to be able to do smaller groups. I know a lot of our special education teachers, you're pulling out a student and giving them one-on-one instruction. So that's something that we are going to do to make sure that we're working with each student with their individualized needs. With that, there's also 10 getting started lap books. So these are going to be a lot larger for our students. Before you start with a level A, let's say your student is a level A and that's where they need to go, there's an option of the getting started piece, and so that's a section of the lessons that goes first. There are take-home books, 6 copies of each. Make sure you're careful in being able to get these back from students, because it's not like just running to the copier and making a copy. Although they are black and white, they are nice books. You're going to have a system guide, which is going to go over everything in this, and so aside of this training, you're going to have a chance to go through the book, read more in depth into it, and figure out all those specifics of what you need for your students. There's also lesson guides, and there's up to 3 volumes for each kit. We are going to go through a lesson guide in a bit and go over what you need, what your goals are, what aspects of and activities are you going to be doing with the book. So we're going to get really deep into that lesson guide. There are prompting guides. There's one for oral reading and early learning. So we're going to be going over that as well. There's a part 2 prompting guide, and that's for comprehension, thinking, talking, and writing. There's going to be a book for when you're teaching readers who are struggling. This is for your kindergarten through 3rd grade students. These are really those basic struggles that you can look up, and if you have a student who is struggling with blends, for instance, there's going to be tips and tricks in there that are going to help you work with that student. There's going to be my writing book. Every student's going to have access to a writing book that goes along with each lesson. There are take-home bags. There are lesson folders. This is really going to help you stay organized with everything that you're doing within these lessons. There's also student folders, and this is so key because if, for instance, we're halfway through the year already, and next year they're going to be working with a new teacher, well, you can have everything in those folders ready to go for the next teacher to pick up and carry on right where you were. There's also the Ready Resources grading system. There's online resources access. There's a calculator and stopwatch, and you also get a 1-year trial to their online data management system. Okay, so now that we have talked about these, I want to go a little deeper into each part that we just talked about. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the program guide. This right here has a lot of good information when you are just starting off It's going to go over the program as a whole. One thing that I really like from this is, for instance, we're going to be talking about lesson 31 because that's a lesson that we have been working on a student with already. And so when you find lesson 31 in the appendix, it's going to give you a lot of great information about that lesson. So it's going to tell you the book that you're reading. It's going to give you labels and names. So for instance, in this book, there is the characters of Jesse, Sam, and Papa. And so you can have those ready to go maybe on index cards. There's also high frequency words and let's see, the content words. One thing I love to do is have those on note cards. It can be something that you send home with students to have them work on. And those content words, making sure that I can make that connection with students as to what these words mean. For instance, let's see. If one of the words is climb, maybe I have a video showing of a kid climbing a tree. You know, there's a lot of vocabulary that our students don't know, and so I want to make sure that they know exactly what they're reading and they can make those connections. So tree, bench, ice, swing, bugs, map, making sure that there are visual connections to these words to ensure that our students really are getting the most comprehension out of these lessons. Another thing that this program guide does is it gives you information on self-correction. It talks about blending. I mean, it has everything. It talks about table charts, and it gives you example of charts that you're going to be doing within this lesson. One thing I love as the person giving these lessons is that it gives you visuals, and it tells me exactly what mine needs to look like. Another thing that I love is that all of these books are written in a series. So for example, when we go over lesson 31, it's the first lesson of the level C books. We're going to be reading a book called A Day at the Park. Well, what's wonderful is that for level A and level B, the students have already read a book with these characters. So for level A, they read a book named called Jesse, and then the level B book, the title was Sam and Papa. So we've met all three characters already at this point for the students to make a book-to-book connection. There's also, so when we get to A Day in the Park, there's the description of these realistic stories feature two cousins with very different interests. Still, the boys get along well most of the time, and they have one important thing in common. They both adore their grandfather. So our students can make that connection to, oh, I have a cousin, and oh, I have a grandfather. So they can make those connections to this story very easily based on their own families. This is a really good piece to have. There's a lot of check boxes to make sure that you're doing the right things as you go on within this program. Okay, the second thing is the lesson guides. I'm going to be going over the first lesson guide, the volume 1, and so within this, you're going to have lessons 1 through 60, and something that I really love is on the back here, they're going to have every single book that you're going to be using through lesson 1. So these are going to be your getting started books. These are the ones that come with the lap books, the bigger books for students to really start those basic beginning learning of reading. So when I know that I'm going to be on lesson 31, it has a visual for me to know exactly what book I'm getting. Okay, so the first thing that it goes over in this lesson guide is getting organized for efficient teaching. For this to work efficiently, you have to be organized, but the wonderful thing is that this gives us so many tools to stay organized. It has those lesson folders, it has the student folders. When you know that you're getting ready for a lesson, make sure that you're using those lesson folders and having everything together for a student. So if you grab them and you know, oh, my friend Sally is on lesson 26, let me grab the folder for lesson 26 and I'm gonna have my anchor charts ready to go. I'm gonna have writing books ready to go. I'm gonna have the story ready to go. And it just makes everything run smoother, so you're using your time wisely to ensuring that these students are getting everything that they need. Another thing is having those student folders. You want to have everything that student needs all together. It may have running records, it could have data collection. So having everything organized is really going to help you, especially if you are working with Sally on that lesson, but then shortly after that you have your friend Jonathan and he needs only lesson 4. Well, you need to make it easy on yourself to just grab lesson 4, grab his folder, and you can easily transition to working with him. So getting organized is crucial. With that getting organized, it talks about all the general materials that you're going to be using within this program. So one of the first things it goes over is your general materials. This is going to be your books, your lesson guide, your teacher manual, the story that you're going to be reading. Following that, having a basket or plastic tub, like I said, having everything organized for you to easily grab and go. The third thing that you're going to want is the new books and the take-home books. It's important to have both of them because you want these students to not only practice with you, but go home and practice with their families. The fourth thing is magnetic letters. You're going to be using these letters throughout the lessons very often, and so having them organized. I see a lot of people use like a tackle box to keep them in, to keep them organized, or you could even have something as like a cookie sheet where you have the magnetic letters all laid out nicely, so it's really easy to grab and go. You're gonna have a word bag, and you're gonna have one of those for each child. This could be your high frequency words. They're gonna consistently be working on them with each lesson, and so you wanna have them easy to find and ready to go. You're gonna want table charts. And those are going to be large charts that you're going to be using. When we go over lesson 31, there will be an example within it to show you exactly what you're going to be needing. You're also going to need materials to be organized for the lesson. So on the first page of your lesson, you're always going to see a part that says you will need, and it's going to give you the list of everything that you need to be prepared for this lesson. So it really lays it all out for you and gives you step-by-step on how to stay organized and make sure that you have everything you need for the students. There's also online resources that you can print as you need them for students. For example, here it has lesson 19 of family pictures. So it's going to have the word cards online. It's going to have parent letter in English and in Spanish. So you can send home letters to parents as you're starting each lesson to kind of give them the rundown of what they can be doing to help at home. There's also letter mini books and an ABC book. The students are going to be using their ABC book throughout each lesson, so that's something that you're going to want to keep in their student folder so you have access to it with every single lesson that they do. They're going to have a poetry book. They're going to be using this throughout lessons. And I think the lesson 31 that we're doing has a poetry aspect to it where you are going over a poem that they had already learned previously. There's an ABC book. The way that this ABC book works is that once you have started with a new letter, they're going to find that page, they're going to color the picture that goes along with it, and they're going to write their new words that begin with that letter. So this is going to be a work in progress as they continue through the program. There's a vowel book, which is so important for our students to know the difference between consonants and vowels, and that a lot of our letters have different sounds. There's long vowels, short vowels, all of that. There are letter mini books. There's going to be multiple sets of letters A through Z. This is something that you can practice quickly with students. There's going to be letter cards, an alphabet linking chart. Let's see, I have one right here. So with this alphabet linking chart, you are going to have access to how each letter has different sounds. Like for example, the letter A, you have apple, but you also have ape. So the letter A makes the A sound and the A sound. So it just goes through and it gives a really colorful visual for our students to kind of learn those letter sounds. So making those links within. Let's see. There's also a consonant cluster linking chart. So I know working on blends and stuff can be tough, but this really, I love that it gives a visual for the students, and even for me, I'm a visual learner, so being able to see that really helps make that connection in their mind. There's also going to be record keeping forms. This is for you. You can do running records, any kind of data collection, it will show you throughout the way. There's recording forms. There's also enlarged alphabet linking chart. So the one that I showed you, there's an enlarged version. There's going to be an enlarged consonant cluster linking chart and enlarged poems. So once you've gone over all the aspects of this, this is where you go to getting started. If you have a student who is at like a pre-reading level, this is where you would go. You're going to start with a level A book, and when you look at these getting started lessons, it's so basic. You're going to learn the routines of a 30-minute lesson. That's one of the goals. Just have them understand how these lessons are going to work. We want them to look closely at names, letter by letter, and focusing on that left to right. As you go through these getting started lessons, which go all the way to lesson 10, it's going to differentiate from level A, level B, and level C. And once you've gotten through those lessons is when you would begin your level A. Level A begins at lesson 11. So here's a question that I've been getting a lot. If I have a student who, when we did DRA, they're at a level D, do I need to start with getting started? Well, no, you've already taken that data. You've done everything that you need to do. There's no need to start them here. So you would find level D, and you would begin with that student on level 41. So that is pretty much what the lesson guide is. It gives you step by step. If you know the student's level and this first volume goes to level E, if your student is above that, then you're going to start with volume 2. Another thing that's included in here is the prompting guides. So there's 2 within this. I'm going to go over part 1 because I know that we have these younger grade students, as I'm seeing with y'all. So we're going to go over the prompting guide. I love this because you can set it up for yourself as you're working with the student. You can have everything easily accessible for when you're prompting and asking questions. When you look, we're starting with early reading behaviors, and that's something simple as reading left to right. Okay, so you're going to be teaching, start here and read this way. When you finish here, go back here. So starting in line, oh, the line is finished. Okay, so now I start with the next line. Hold the book on the edges. You're going to be modeling to them how to hold a book. This is very, very basic, starting with reading. So once you've taught these things, then you're going to have prompts. You hold the book on the edges. Now go back here. move your eyes, read it with your eyes. Once you've done those promptings, you want to make sure to reinforce what they are doing. I love that it gives you the teaching, the prompting, and the reinforcing. Wow, you know how to hold the book on the edges. You read it with your eyes. If you see the student is following along, point that out to them. Make sure that we are reinforcing all of these good reading habits. After the prompting guide, there is the technology package. Everyone is going to get one of these, and within it you get operating instructions. You're going to get a professional development DVD. If you do the things on this DVD, you can get credit within our district. So this is something really, really important, and it's only going to make you better at using this kit. There's a tutorial so you can watch sample lessons, although we're going to go through it here in a minute. There's data management access, and there's other online resources that you can get within this. So you can use it online, like you can go to the website and get those resources, or you can put this in and get those resources. Let's see. You're going to have your take-home bags, real fancy with your, you can put your take-home books in it, keep everything organized for the students in place. And then you're gonna have those student folders that you're gonna be able to put their names on, keep everything organized. So now that I've gone through this, we're gonna talk about how it's implemented. And following this, I'm gonna go through the lesson guide and walk you step through step on how the lesson works. So how is it implemented? When implementing the Level Literacy Intervention Kit, the first goal is to identify the students that need intensive support to reach grade level competencies and find the instructional reading level for each of them. So right now I want you to take a couple minutes. I want you to think about your students. Who are the students who need this intervention? Who are the students that you are working with, but really not seeing the growth that we want? Those are the students you're going to be working with, and I want you to think about their reading levels. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. Okay, so after looking over what Ms. Gomez was doing, I see that she has 3 second grade students that she is consistently pulling out for intervention and special ed support. So she has 2 students at a level C and 1 student at a level D. And so when implementing this, she could put those level C students together, but it's not best practice to have that other student using the program with them because they are at a higher level. So that's a student that she would want to work with one-on-one. So for entry into the Level Literacy Intervention Kit, it will be necessary to assess the student's instructional and independent reading levels. The more precise the initial assessment, the more affecting your teaching is going to be. So we want to look at their instructional level as well as their independent reading levels. The Fountas and Pinnell recommend that schools use Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessment system to determine the instructional reading level for each student. For schools that do not have access to the Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessment system, teachers can use other benchmark assessments you have in your school or district. Like I mentioned before, we use our DRA reading levels. That's how we use that assessment to match it to what we're doing with Fountas and Pinnell. Use the information from any alternative assessments used in the districts, or schools may have many students who do not meet expectations for grade level reading or cannot fully participate and learn from the level of instruction in the classroom. These students benefit from the leveled literacy intervention. So any student who is not on grade level will benefit from this program. Schools may have many students who do not meet expectations for grade level reading or cannot fully participate and learn from the level of instruction in the classroom. These students benefit from the leveled literacy intervention. In forming those groups, it is ideal to meet individual needs and provide the very specific instruction each reader needs to move forward. Once the instructional levels of the students are determined, small groups of readers who are similar enough that teachers can begin lessons at a particular level can be formed. The priority should be to group students efficiently and effectively so you can teach them at the appropriate level. Okay, so looking over the lesson guide, we're going to start with level C. Okay, so with lesson 31, the first thing you want to look at is what you will need. So you're going to need the book A Day at the Park, and you're going to need 2 previous books, Boots and Shoes and Traffic. So you're going to not only have a level C book, but a B and an A as well. You're going to need your magnetic letters, a vowel chart from the previous lesson. It also tells you when you go to the website at the resources that you can download the vowel book, my ABC book, the picture card of an iguana, and the parent letter. So when doing this lesson, the goals are to notice short vowel sounds in words and connect them to letters, understand and remember the letters that are vowels, notice the distinctive features of letters, read with voice print match across 3 or more lines of print, read with phrasing and attention to punctuation, read without finger pointing, use meaning, language, structure, and visual information to self-monitor, self-correct, and solve words. Use connections between texts to understand character attributes. Understand, compare, and contrast as a major underlying structure in this fictional text. Follow a series of events using contrast. Understand a satisfying conclusion to a story using comparison. On here, it has an analysis of the new book, and it tells you the genre, the text structure, the content, themes and ideas, the language and literary features, sentence complexity, the vocabulary, the high frequency words, illustrations, books, and print features. So you're going to start with rereading those 2 books, the level A and the level B. You're going to invite the children to reread Boots and Shoes and Traffic. As children reread the books, prompt for reading left to right with return sweep over 3 lines of text. When you finish, go back here. Once you've read